Brought to you by JMR Rentals, professional digital cinema and broadcast equipment rentals in Brooklyn, New York. JMRNY.com. Hello and welcome to No Rest for the Weekend. I'm Jason Godbey, and joining me via Zoom today, she is an award-winning actor that you'll know from films and television shows like Homeland, Orange is the New Black, and Stranger Things, Miss Catherine Curtin. Welcome, Catherine.
Oh, well, okay. Well, thank you for having me. And I'm going to do my best to be as talk show as legitimately possible. But as we just discussed a sidebar, I'm really only good at talking. So I don't know.
We've featured you a couple of times on the red carpet. So it's nice to be able to talk to you kind of about you and your career and things like that. How did you get into acting? What is your origin story?
So I was in high school and my dad was terminally ill. And my mom did not want me at the hospital every day. So there was this professional sort of young people's theater company in New York. And I learned about it. And they did mainly musicals, and I can't carry a tune. So that was really kind of a challenge. But I was brought in, I think, as part of the diversity quota as like actually a white person, because they didn't have as many white people. And so I think that was, of course, the New York thing that I don't know that happens in every area, but in New York, that can really happen. So out of that, a whole group of teams started their own company. And that company, I got to do a little more in because they knew I couldn't carry a tune. So I just did more of the acting stuff. Then I don't know, I just fell in love with it as a bug, like I think the problem with acting is that it is a bug and you can really fall in love with it in terms of whatever you do in life that is actually a passion and not just a job. Suddenly that becomes the thing that you have to have in your life, that answers the call to you. And it becomes not religious, but, I think I am a native New Yorker. I went to the theater from the time I could sit still. My family loved the theater. And the theater to me always seemed like it was as if we were going to church, for us. It was a kind of a church because it was so based in the universal laugh, the universal moment of stunned silence, the universal moment of no one expected it. And, the audience is like, like to be in a theater when that happens, when you're live and a collective group of people have a very similar immediate response, it's existentially a really driven electric shock. Because you start to go, oh my gosh, this is all of us together. And that was, maybe it was because I was losing my dad. I don't know, that really struck me as this is a new place for family. This is a place for family.
People most know you for shows like Orange is New Black, where you were a regular, and things like Stranger Things. But that show is just like a sensation, and there's like a fandom around it. Can you kind of describe that experience, like how you got the gig and kind of what it's like to work on a show like that?
So there's this thing that actors suffer now called self-tapes. It's like the land of self-tapes that we're all in. And that had really started, before the pandemic, because it's a way for somebody who's, the directors are somewhere else. And instead of, casting might be, I think casting for Stranger Things is actually in LA and I'm a New Yorker. So I think they wanted to Zoom me anyway. And that really started at that time, or self-tape me rather. But I was so sort of sick of the whole self-tape thing. And I felt very much like, it was the dark hole from which nothing ever emerged, no jobs, no boo. It was like, send a self-tape to your agents and sometimes it was great. And they'd be like, oh, you have to get this role. That was so awesome. If you don't get this role. And then of course you'd never hear anything. And then sometimes it's just what it is. You know, you're like, I don't know if I get that role. But anyway, so I was so sort of like, I think demoralized would be the right word, that my son was in, he was in middle school at the time, and they were having a middle school like fair that day. And I went over to drop him off, and there was a face painter. And the episode that I auditioned with for Stranger Things was a Halloween episode. So I was like, you know what? Forget it. Just forget it. I'm getting my face painted. I am going to do this self-tape with my face painted, because if people don't know what I look like by now, then we have a real, like that image is out there. So the character loved cats. So I asked this really fabulous woman at my son's school to give me a cat face as a, so I went home with my cat face on. It was really good. She gave me like, really, it was very artistic. That was like, I could never have done it. It was like whiskers and like a whole thing. It was like right out of Cats. It was fabulous. And I did my little self-tape with that, you know, cat makeup. And I think it actually maybe did something, because I really think that I don't never ask them actually, but I think, you know, what it does, like when you do something different in an audition, is you sort of say, you know, hey, okay, that's it. You know, this is who I am. Like, you know, I'm here. You know, I'm here with cat makeup on. That's how much I am here. Okay. So can we just start from right there? And so I don't know if it gave them a sense of like my quirky personality, or if it just gave me the agency to be as like, okay, I'm going to be as quirky as I possibly want to be, because like I already have cat makeup on. So like, why not? You know, like why not go for it? My first day on set, which I was sort of astounded by, and these two really sweet people come up to me and they're like, hi. And I'm like, hi. And then we just stood there. And they're like, well, we're the Duffer Brothers. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm Kathy. So that was sort of my introduction to them. And, you know, what was great about it was they were so like, that is who they are, and that is who they have remained. Just very approachable, very kind, very gentle people who, they're like, you know, you can say the lines, but you know, if something comes out of your mouth that's not the lines, that's okay too, because like it's a chip and we can edit, and we want it to be natural, and we want it to come from you. And it was all about sort of like connecting and being, and it's really a set where you can bungee jump very comfortably, like whatever that means as an actor. And, you know, I had said to them, which I think getting back to sort of maybe what the original question was, what was the original question? That, you know, if I'm too big, let me know, because, you know, I have a lot of energy. And they said, well, you're Dustin's mom. So there's really no too big, you know, because he's pretty out there, you know, wonderful, wildly, you know, he really comes from a place of energy and love. So I think that they just didn't feel that there would be no amount of energy and love that I could bring that would be too much. So that was really fun. And it's been it was a very fun show to work on. I'm really humbled, and I love what they're doing with the medium of television. And I love the stories that they're telling, but also the internal story that's being told throughout, right? There's, you know, if you think about Eleven's journey, you know, this is a woman who's really trying to, no matter what she feels, she keeps going and keeps fighting the good fight. And I think that's such a incredibly solid and valuable lesson for all of us. And I love how, to me, that show is so committed to healing, and it's so committed to saying that, there's a lot of stuff that's going to go down, bad or good, and you just have to keep moving forward on that. And that's really important. And I love being in shows that have that moral message, that where the creators are really trying to bring good to the planet and bring to their audience a sense of, the fight, and a sense of going for it, and a sense that you got this and you're good to go. Like I find that so valuable. It's so, like, I'm not sure that, at least until the pandemic, any of us really realized how important really the arts are, and especially content is, in terms of, it can stream into your home, and it can make you feel like, okay, maybe that is a fantasy, maybe that is, obviously highly fictionalized tale, but there's a message there, there's stuff going on there that it's going to sit inside of me, it's going to resonate in me, it's going to give me a sense of, like, some of the rules of the road, because I mean, I'm a mom, and I don't think any parent can impart the rules of the road enough. Like, something's always going to happen that no one expects. And sometimes when you are able to watch something and it just comes into your life randomly, and then you're going through your life, that work can really resonate through people's day in a very powerful, positive way. And so I'm always really grateful to be in work that I think is sending a positive message. And I know that maybe sounds trite, but I don't think it's trite at all. I think it's real. I think it's incredibly important.
Stranger Things is a show that really wears its influences on its sleeve.
Yeah.
And for like a Gen X kid, you're like, oh, they made this show for me. This show, somebody hijacked my brain and made a show that they said, hey, you 40-something dude from suburbia, this is your show. With some of the different series projects that we've seen, especially coming out of streaming services like Netflix, I feel like television has really become the art form for grown-ups who want to see storytelling. It's not the amusement park ride that films have become. And, you've been in a couple of these big shows. What has that meant to you as a storyteller, and kind of what has it meant for your career?
I never know what anything means for my career. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm like, I don't know. I do not know. I'm always grateful to work. Every day on set is a good day. I'm always grateful for a gig, and I'm always grateful for film, because I do love film. And there are times in my life when I've shot TV during the week and film on the weekends, and that's been really, like, the greatest joy. But as a storyteller, I think to be in something as different as Homeland and Orange is the New Black or Insecure or Stranger Things, I think what I really perceive about all of these shows and all of these characters is that they're people that are just after their mission. All of these people, from Wanda Bell to, Issa's boss running a 529, to a not-for-profit, to a CIA operative in a bunker on Homeland. Every one of these people is just voraciously going after and protecting, and, you know, put your foot in your mouth or not, we're gonna say what we feel we should say. And, you know, maybe that's why I play those roles, because, you know, I am one of those people who says what they're gonna say. And I really go after, like, if whatever my mission is, like, I go after it. You know, if I'm making roasted potatoes, I'm making roasted potatoes, you know, like, that's just it. So I don't know, maybe as a storyteller, that's really what it is that I bring to the table. And maybe, you know, that's why I've gotten those roles. You know, I don't really, from the point of view of a creative soul, which I think is what I am, I don't really perceive a huge difference in the storytelling that is Orange is the New Black to Homeland, because it's all of that storytelling is about people trying to get it right, trying to live through their lives, trying to make it happen, trying to protect what they feel they need to protect, trying to push the ball up the hill, you know. And so I don't, even though the stories are different and the tones are different, and the, you know, these are vastly groundbreaking, hugely different, 360-degree different, have different values as work, as content. The similarities are it's always relationship, it's always history, it's always mission. There's a lot of similarities, and I think that's why I love this business, because this business is just, it's really the bottom line of this art. It's all about that E.M. Forrester, you know, only connect, you know, and that's what we do. And so to me, it's not really about whether it's Orange or Homeland or Insecure. It's really about, can I let go of myself enough? Can I just drop out of whatever idiot ego is going on, and whatever feeling of, you know, whatever that critic is that sits on everyone's shoulder, and can I release all of that and just enter into the belief system that is going down about whatever it is that we're shooting, you know? And so it's not so much, I feel that any of them are different, as they're all very much based in a moving forward. And for me, it's always, can I forget myself enough? Can I get out of the way enough to connect to the story that I know when I read that script, you know, I connected to? You know, when I read that script, I was like, oh, okay, wow, that's the story that's being told. Can I enter into that story? That's really the question for me. And then of course it's a question of tone, you know. Does your character have a sense of humor? Does your character not have a sense of humor? You know, what is the tone of it? Is it a dark tale, or, you know, is jealousy the biting factor that's driving, you know, someone forward? Or is it you know, some kind of connection to the saving democracy, you know, which is really Homeland, or, you know, on some level? Or, you know, is it the connection to, you know, oh my gosh, you know, what's going on with my kids, you know? And in Stranger Things, it's all of these characters just going after it, but it's really identifying. And I think the difficult factor is, what is the tone? And what I love about one of the great challenges I find in Stranger Things, is the tone is not really straight drama. It's really dramedy, you know? And so what is that? How do you enter into that? That's how do you play that, you know?
It's interesting what you said about, kind of going for it and having the determination. I interviewed a friend of mine called PJ King earlier this year, and he lives out in LA, and he said that a teacher had said to him, if you're going to be an actor in Los Angeles, and probably for New York for that matter, it's no different than being an Olympic athlete. You have to have the same kind of discipline, determination. Like, you have to work just as hard as an Olympic athlete at that level of concentration, at that level of determination. Do you agree with that? And is that kind of, do you feel like that's something that you have been able to play at that level?
That's a top of the wish list. I don't know if I have the discipline of an Olympic athlete. I mean, if I was to say what I think is really of highest value, in terms of that discipline, it would be like, every morning you 7 days a week, you get up and you do urban yoga, and then you do your voice exercises, and then, you do a hot oil treatment on your hair, and then I mean, the list goes on of what can be involved in the self-care that it takes to be that kind of a real par excellence, winning machine, which is what an Olympic athlete really is. And I'm not sure that I don't love being outside of myself as much as I do being sort of like inside, and sense of, I cannot spend my whole day just focused on me. I'm like, okay, I've done, I tried to blow dry my hair. I tried to do my yoga. I've done this, but now I want to go and I want to read this script, and I want to go and I want to, spend time with my son, and I want to go and I want to, I live in New York City. I want to go out into the streets and look at all the fabulous, like, things that are happening in New York at any given moment that, it's completely like you enter into the wild world of chaos. It's fantastic. And so I do think about this thing that we all do probably 24/7 on some level. And I certainly, journal about it quite often. And I'm completely challenged and in raptures over how to do it, what it is that we do. I do think probably those that face this industry with an Olympic athlete kind of a spirit of, you've got to really go for it. I think that's probably a good, important factor. But I also personally think that it's really important to, know about what's going on in the world. And I think that there's a lot of places that you can take a mission statement from, that you can take inspiration from. There's a lot of things happening in the world that hopefully art is resonant of. And now, especially with this generation of younger people who, they not only are actors, they're making their own films. I mean, it's the standard practice now for young people to not only be an actor, but be an actor and a writer and a director and a producer. And so I think when I look at it from that point of view, it's not just a tennis player who, or, of course there's no just there, but it's not there. It's not just a singular factor in what it means to be that Olympian. It's not just, you've got to play a great tennis game or you've got to play that great golf game. It's, you've got to, manage the golf course and play the game and shoot the game and edit the game and write about why the game is interesting. And, so that I'm not sure that just looking at it from a point of view of a singular focus is anymore what maybe young people need to do. I mean, certainly you could say that. Certainly that could be true. I taught a film class at Atlantic last fall, and it was very important to me that they made their own art. I don't know that they really were thinking that that's what they were going to do in my class, but I was like, no, 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 this is not just an acting class. This is not just about acting. Your generation, you are creators. So this is a much bigger picture. You're all going to come away with a 2 to 7 minute film that you understand who you are as a creator. And I think I do think you have to work at what we do a lot and as much as you can. But I think you have to have a wider focus than simply that tunnel vision that an athlete must, I imagine, I mean, I'm not one, must sort of take on in their lives. And that's not to say that you don't have to do urban yoga and your voice exercises and everything else. But I think you have to be a storyteller that is not only in the story now, but also part of you're a progenitor of the story. It feels like for me in this generation, and maybe that's a good thing. I hope that's a good thing.
I do feel like it's been a blessing and a curse for actors because like it's great. Oh, I've got more dominion over my career. I'm not waiting for a phone call. It's not always an audition. I can create my own thing because of digital technology. But now it's like, oh, wait, you mean I have to do all this stuff now?
Yeah.
Because some actors are great actors, but they're not good writers. They're not directors. They're not producers. And it just seems like so much for them to have to, because like being an actor is hard enough. Like it's a because and all that stuff you were talking about. It's like you have to there's a lot of maintenance, and I've noticed with myself that the older I get, the more maintenance is required. And then there's also like as an actor, you also have to live life because you're trying to recreate life. You can't recreate life unless you live one. And I feel like a lot of young actors, they get into their own heads sometimes trying to like put on this artificial suit of being a character and not realizing it's, hey man, it's your experience. But it's really hard now because of the social media and all that. Like it's a great tool, but it's also kind of a double-edged sword. You've worked on a lot of different projects. Do you have anything now that you want to kind of like let people know?
I have a film 18 and a half out that just went on VOD, I think in August, and it was 2 weeks at the IFC Center in Manhattan in June. And I love this film, so I hope people get to see it. It's a sort of ridiculous frolic, frothy romp through the 18 and a half minutes of the missing Nixon tapes, and so it's completely fictional, and it's very historically based thriller. It's that beautiful thing that we can do in this industry where you can take your inspiration from history and you can use a lot of historical facts, but you can fill it out in a way that maybe that's not historical at all, but I'm watching, you got me. And that's what this film does. And I think it's a fantastic film. I love it. I really love it so much. It's called 18 and a half, and it's on all the platforms. And I've got a show on Netflix, a new show coming on called Partner Track. I'm very much supporting, but I think it's a really interesting, fun, legal leagues show. The millennials are going after what it means to be a millennial in the sort of heavy corporate world that is the law, the intense high-end legal profession. And what's interesting is that I think what I love about this generation is that they're asking themselves so many more questions than I would have thought I could ask myself. Like, I didn't want to be a lawyer because, I felt like, oh, that I could get compromised. Like, I'm going to have to work on a case that I don't believe in. I'm going to have to, do a brief or defend someone, or I'm going to have to put together a research analysis of something that I find morally reprehensible if I'm on that side of the table. And that seemed to me like an impossibility. And, so I just thought, well, better to be an actor. I don't know. But anyway, when I look at a show like this show really, it really brings up a lot of questions that this generation is taking to task with the worlds in which they work. What is the work-life balance? What does it mean to bring your personal ethics into the work world? And, what is romance? Where's the place of romance in the work world? And so it's such a great show. I love it. So I hope people get to watch it. And that's coming on to Netflix next week, I think. And then I have a film, Benji's Hour, that I shot last summer that I think is a fabulous indie film. I love so much. And this past sort of winter, spring, I shot 3 indie features I worked on that I love them all. And I shot like 10 short films. And so I don't know, it's all, I'm assuming it's all coming out at some point. But it's fun, it's really like, I think that's what I love about the energy that is New York. What I love about being sort of a maven of the indie film world is that I work all the time. I'm shooting tomorrow. I shot last week. I work on people's stuff all the time. I'm just like, I'm always working on people's indie projects. And I don't really have, I think it comes from my time in the theater, because I never really made it to like the upper levels of, theater. I was always, working in the theaters where the rugs were taped together and one wasn't sure if there would be heat or if there would be air conditioning. That was the theaters that I worked in, but I loved them all and I would work in them all over again. And although I don't do theater anymore, but it was a great period in my life. And what it taught me was that, to say yes, like for me, I just like to make art. I don't really judge, is this Netflix or is this an indie film? Is this a big budget or is this a little budget? Like, yes, obviously I need to pay my mortgage. I need to make a living. I need to make money, but I also need to make art. And so I think that working as a young person, just doing everything in the theater really just let me sort of come to a life where I just like to show up on set. I'm not really, judging like which set I'm showing up on and why I'm there, like it's all good to me is I guess what I'm saying. And I've got a lot coming out.
And that's all the time we have for today. Thanks so much for taking this trip down the rabbit hole. For more of our content, including our movie reviews, visit our website, norestfortheweekendpodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, youtube.com/getbehindtherabbit. I'd like to thank my guest, Catherine Curtin, and our sponsor, JMR Rentals, for Behind the Rabbit Productions. I'm Jason Godbey. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.